All right. Welcome to Spiritual Encouragement with Philip. I want to welcome you all here. Um, Here we're going to be talking about a lot of different things as far as encouragement, walking in faith, my own personal testimony, and working on how we can all grow and learn to um, come to God and walk with Him in faith and not sight, and many other things on this channel. Today we are going to be specifically talking about my testimony and how God called me to quit my job and everything that is unfolded. And I hope that this will be able to help somebody and reach somebody who is in need at this time. This has been placed on me. There's been a lot of attacks to try and keep me from getting this video up, so I feel like it's important enough that somebody needs to hear this today. So that being said, first and foremost, my I'll go into my testimony and how I came to God. Um, Starting off, just a little bit of a background. I was raised in a Christian home. Um, my grandparents were devout Christians. My mom was, a, she still went to church. She made us try to get involved. She tried to live a Christian life. She was raised Christian. Um, but things in my childhood kind of deviated from that. From a very early age, um, there was a lot of things that went on in my life. My dad wasn't really around very much. He was kind of in and out, in and out, in and out. He was of the world. He was into a lot of things that he should not have been. He was very abusive mentally, physically, and emotionally, not just to me, but to my mother. Um, and he took his anger out on me, and my mom also took her anger out on me. It was kind of a revolving door, and there was a lot of things that I went through and that I saw as a child. And as a child, I was very observant. It was like a gift that I was given. I knew everything that was going on, everything that was being said behind closed doors. I knew what was going on. I was very observant, and people didn't take that into account that somebody, me, at the age that I was able to comprehend what was going on. And I very much so did. And I saw all the stuff going on, all the stuff that was, like that was going on towards my mom. Um, at a very early age, I was robbed of my childhood and started worrying about bills and whether we would have food or whether we would have a place to live. Because my dad never worked, and it was always my mom that worked. And my mom was, basically a single parent. He was there, but he wasn't. And um, she was working, sometimes two, three jobs just to provide, and she was never really at home. And when she was so burnt out and consumed with everything that was going on that she didn't know how to handle herself. She didn't know how to give that kind of love like she did, but it was robbed from her. She was so consumed by everything going on around her that I missed out on a lot of vital stuff with my mom. Stuff that she regrets, stuff that, stuff happens. It is what it is. But, you know, uh, going into further, I started to, grow up and take my own path, get my own identity. Um, and then I started to become very bitter, have a lot of resentment, a lot of anger issues, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. And I ultimately, like everyone else who goes down those paths, started looking for ways to fill those voids and find the love that I was looking for and everything else. And so at a very early age, I got into very destructive things, and I started getting into um, things that I shouldn't have. And it started out slow. Like, I started out with doing like some light drinking, And then I went to, and then by no way am I advocating, I'm just saying, it's where I started. This is my path. I started out doing a little bit of drinking, and then I got into tobacco to help hide. And I seen everybody doing it and thought, hey, whatever. Uh, but I just finding anything I could as an outlet to feel better about whatever situation. And then it turned into progressing and getting into harder things as I began getting older. Started drinking more, started getting into drugs. Nothing like really hard. I'm not going to list them off obviously on YouTube. I'm not going to sit here and go through all the list of like what I didn't do, but the few things that I did do, I dabbled into getting addicted to alcohol and certain drugs. Um, and I went through a long period in my life. I'm in my 30s now. And 15 years of that was spent doing degeneracy. Um, and time goes on. My mom divorces my dad finally. Uh, we move to a completely different town. We think things are going to get better. I got to go to a completely different school. Um, and everything starts to just keep piling up and piling up. And I get more bitter, more resentment, more anger, more hatred that I felt at this time. And I start looking for more outlets to hide all this pain, all this resentment, all this bitterness. And I keep going deeper down this rabbit hole of destruction and bottling all my pain up to the point that one slight thing would make me snap beyond measure. One tiny little thing, and I would come unglued. I didn't care who it was. Could have been my mom, could have been anybody. It didn't matter. I was at a point where I had so many walls up. You could have done anything you wanted to, and you would have not broke that wall down. I would not have let you. I was mad at the world. I was mad at everybody, and I hated everybody, including the world and myself. Part of that being because, well, I was never, as a child, my childhood was robbed. I wasn't able to just go out and, you know, do things like you would as a child, per se. I mean, I still got to go out and play and whatnot, and most of the times I went and played and, would run the town instead of going home. Now, I had to be home by 6. I had to be home. Well, and it varied. It just depended. Whenever the church bell rang in the town and the lights came on, I better be home before that. Or I was grass. Mama was going to knock me out. Not really knock me out, but knock me a new one. Mama would have got me. I'd have been in big trouble if I wouldn't have been home by the time that bell went off and the lights came on. And then she finds somebody new, and they start talking and dating, and I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't trust guys at this point. There's only one guy at this point that I trust, and it ain't even myself. It's my grandpa. The only role model I ever had, the only influential person in my life that I ever had, and it made a lot of people have resentment about it, but I literally had nobody else. It was if I wouldn't have had him, the path I would have went down would have been way worse, and I may not even be here today if he had not stepped in and did what he did for me. And a lot of people were mad about how he went with raising me when nobody else could, because like I said, my mom was always working a bunch of jobs, and it came to the point that she had to move away, and we did have to end up staying with him because she had to be closer to work, because she couldn't be, with working all the hours and stuff that she was working, she couldn't be traveling, that many miles a day, like to the closest next town to where her job was. I mean, uh, it was over. At that point, I want to say it was like uh, a 45-minute drive one way just to get to work. And uh, after you work, 12 grueling long hours, it catches up to you, especially when you're not a young pup anymore. I mean, my mom didn't have me when she was really old, but at this point, I mean, she was not getting any younger. At this point, I mean, she was in her like early 40s, and maybe late 30s, probably late 30s, somewhere in there, like late 30s. Um, and she had some health issues anyway, so it was rough on her. And so, I mean, I understood. She came down every weekend. She picked us up, and we went and stayed the weekend with her, and we got to visit with her and have fun and watch movies and go out, and we had a lot of fun. Um, and then she decides to continue on with this relationship with this guy, and I still don't want no part of it. And it comes to a point where he wants to just give up and quit trying. And then all of a sudden, one day, he starts trying to go above and beyond to come into my life. Trying anything he can. Getting on my level, finding things in common. Everything he could, he was trying to do to get into my life, to break them walls down. And I didn't understand why. Like, I don't want nothing to do with you, dude. Like, I don't. Stop. I don't know you. I don't trust you. Just stop. Well, unknowing to me, my mom tells this stranger my entire life story. And then, lo and behold, he went through a similar childhood, similar path. So we understood. And that's how he knew what to do, and why he was trying as hard as he was, and why he was taking the paths that he was to try and break my walls down. And slowly over time it worked. He had to work pretty hard, but over time it worked. He got him down. And we built a very close relationship. And he would, play sports with me. We could go outside and throw the ball. We could shoot hoops. We would shoot at ranges. We would go hunting. We would go fishing. And then they get married, and he wants to stay where he's living. So my mom packs up her, and they go. And I decide that I don't want to go, and I decide to stay with my grandpa. And I stay until the middle of my 8th grade year. It was Christmas break of my 8th grade year. And then I finally decide that, I want to be closer to mom. I'm tired of being away from mom. It's time to go home. I just get the urge. Something tells me inside, like, it's time to go. And I call up mom and I tell her, like, hey, mama, I want to come home. Like, it's time. If you got room, I'm ready. We'll call the school. We'll get it all figured out. Go ahead and call over there, get it figured out. And, the weekend, it's about to be Christmas break right now. So when it comes up, when they dismiss us for Christmas break, let's go. And we get it done, get over there, get me enrolled in the new school, get everything going. And then more stuff comes about, and I start going down an even rougher destructive path and getting deeper into things. And I get into some bad relationships and whatnot. It happens to everybody. couple of them. One in particular got me more than the other, and I turned even deeper to stuff on that and started running wild and rampant after that, and didn't care anymore at all. And a little more time goes by, and I come to a point where some rough things happen in my life, and it comes to a point where something so dramatic happens in my life that I get hospitalized, and I'm in the hospital for a week fighting for my life, and I managed to finally get well enough that I can come home, and then it gets even worse and takes a bigger spiral, and I can't feed myself. I can't do anything for myself. I can't walk by myself. I can't, do the normal things. I can't, shower by myself. I can't do anything. I can't do nothing by myself. And I hit a rock bottom stage at that point in my life and got very destructive. To the point that I hit an ultimate low. And because we're on the platform that we're on, I'm not gonna say what it was, but I'm sure people can infer by that happening, what route I tried to go. And thankfully it was stopped. But with it being that happening, then I got deeper into substances, and I went on a very, very destructive path after that because I hated myself. I felt like a burden. I felt like, I hated everything even more, and I felt like, why could God do something like this to me? If there was a God, why would He do something like this? Why would you do anybody like that? I can't even function. I can't even get up out of bed on my own. And I had misplaced anger at God, and it took me a long time to understand, the whole misplaced anger and the misplacement of judgment of where all this came from and all the attacks that were going on and all the stuff I was going through. And some time later, I ended up with continuing down that path, ended up getting arrested and going to jail. And I spent some time, and we ended up getting a lot of it knocked down, and I ended up doing the little bit of time that I served, and then I had to do a few years probation, community service, pay the fines and court fees, and obviously pay the probation officer and stuff like that. And then the day I got, and I quit. I quit everything. Obviously, I had to be. I couldn't have a drop of nothing. And then the day I got off of probation, I went right back down that rabbit hole, almost instantly. After all them years of it not touching it, and poof, right back down that rabbit hole. And it got even more destructive. And all of this led up to where we're at now. There's more, but it can come out in a different video. I don't want to make this video be like an hour long. Leading up to now, within the recent last 6 months of my life, I was called 6 months ago to quit my job. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was going on. But I had this overwhelming internal urge and urgency that I had to quit. That was part of my destruction. I was so stressed out. I was a manager. I never got time with my family. I was never able to get a day off hardly. My phone was constantly blowing up. I never got a moment's peace. And half the time, if I was sleeping, my phone was blowing up with an email or someone trying to call in or whatever the case might be. And I was still hiding everything, all that stress and everything else in those same habits. And a lot of it was really weighing on me, and I was starting to do some real like recollections and some self evaluations of what this job was taking from me. And I wasn't even worried about the other part of it. It was just what was the job stealing from me. All the time it took from my children, all the time that I missed with my wife. I missed so many of my children's first steps, first words, big achievements, them learning how to draw things, you know, learning to fully walk, learning to say big words, so many different things. I missed so much with multiple of my children, and I've got 4 living and 1 on the way. They're all boys. And my middle child was born at 31 weeks and had a bunch of issues. Obviously, complications due to him being born at 31 weeks. And I wasn't really ever able to be there for him at all or even go see him because of my job. And that really tore me up. And seeing my child like that, the few times I was able to go up there, is a sight that was just completely, well, I just hope nobody ever has to see it. And I know many people have, but it's not, I wouldn't even want, I wouldn't want anybody having to see something like that, and see their child like that. It was the most demoralizing, scarring thing I've ever had to go through in my life. And I started to grow some resentment from my company because I was not able to get away. And it wouldn't have mattered if I'd asked for help to get coverage to go or not, whether I would have put in for PTO or anything. There was nobody to cover it. And we were hours away from the home area because there was obviously areas, districts, and so on. And our like home area, we had a corporate area, and then each area had its own like corporate area, split into divisions. The Midwest would have its area, its corporate area. Southern District have its corporate area, so on and so forth. There was the big main corporate office, but each individual area had its own little home corporate office. They were over 100 miles away, and wasn't nobody coming down that far. It was next to impossible to ever get anybody to come down. Even if you only had 1 or 2 people and you needed extra help, like it didn't matter. Nobody wanted to come down and help. And I understood, like, who wants to drive 100 miles to go work, 4 or 5 hours and have to turn around and do 100 miles back home? Or even, 80 miles. Some of them lived a little closer, but everybody's so stretched out. I mean, nobody wants to do it, so I understood. I didn't even bother, so it was not even worth asking. But it built up a lot of resentment and bitterness in that sense. But the company never really did me wrong, so I don't hold anything against the company. It's just at that point in my time, in my mind, I held it. I didn't understand things. I wasn't as clear-minded as I am now about things and about the situation. And then time goes on, then we have another kid, and still going down that destructive path, Still have a lot of bitterness and anger and resentment and hatred in me. And I'm still mad at the world. I'm mad at myself, disgusted with myself and the world. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't like nobody. I don't even like myself. I just want to go off in my own little area and do my own little thing. And I don't want to be bothered. And that was ultimately robbing of time with my children and my wife by my own hand. So it caused even more bitterness and hatred for myself because I had it coming from both ways. I was getting it robbed from me from other things, and I was robbing it from myself. And it created a big mess. And one day, I start getting this overwhelming urge and sense of urgency that I've got to quit my job. No two ways about it. This wasn't like some kind of emotional thing. I'm screaming, I'm crying, I'm yelling. I've got to leave. I can't take this. No, it was something internal. It was spiritual. It was spiritual. It was something internal. It's so overwhelming. It was an overwhelming feeling I've never felt before. It was kind of like when you feel if a bad situation happens, you're not expecting it, you're laying there, everything's good and calm, and then you get an instant hit of bad news and a bad rush of news. But different because it's not the same kind of feeling, but it was like that intense. You can feel that pressure pouring on you. It was similar to that, but internally telling me, you've got to quit. So I quit. And I left and I didn't look back. And shortly later, because of it, we end up losing our home. I lose a couple of my trucks. I go pay cash for a different truck. Because we were living good. I mean, I was making good money. We had a lot of things. But just, tangible, finite things didn't matter. Not in the long scheme of things. Not now that I'm where I'm at now. It doesn't even bother me now because now, and this is where it comes to that I hope this helps because, well, with all of that, my grandpa got sick. I went to stay with him to help him. And when I did that is where I found God. And you might say, well, how? How does all this come together and how does this add up? Well, I'm going to tell you. So my grandpa lost his wife a few years prior to this. And they had been married for over 65 years. And he was extremely lonely and he didn't want to be alone anymore. And he was a very godly man. And my grandma was a very godly woman. They were devout Christians, had been their entire lives. And I went and stayed with him so he wouldn't be alone. I didn't question it, second guess it. Nothing. He asked for help and I went. It was the least I could do. He helped me so much in my life that it's unreal. And I was not about to tell that man no. I would have not told him no on anything. Because I know he would have never asked for anything that would have been out of this world. He would have never asked me for anything super extreme. He was a very, godly man. He read his Bible every single day. He was very devout. He prayed every single day, every single night, religiously, day and night. Every night he prayed for everybody, the world, all of his family, all of his grandkids, all his great-grandkids. He was very devout. And he prayed for me for years and years and years. And we go back and we rekindle, and a prayer of his gets answered because in with something that he says, and in with there were some crazy spiritual things going on in me at this time. There was a lot of things going on, and I was trying to figure things out, trying to figure out what we were going to do, how things were going to go, where we were going to turn, and I just got this overwhelming feelings in my spirit, inside, that I now know is was my spirit, but inside, and um, it it consumed me, but in a good way. It wasn't nothing bad, you know, and I instantly fell to my knees and I screamed from the rooftops and gave it all away. I got down and submitted my life to God and gave it all. All my worries, all my anxiety, my depression, my fears, my temptations, all of it. I gave it all. I asked Him to take it all, to come into my life, to wash me of my sins, to purify me, to give me guidance and wisdom and courage, and I accepted the Holy Spirit into my life and instantly felt the transformation. Not a day later, not a week later, instantly. Because see, here's the thing. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out if you want to submit to God. Either something so traumatic is going to happen that you are going to openly just hit rock bottom, and you're going to hit rock bottom and you're openly going to just pour your heart out to God, or you're going to pour your heart out to God after something really traumatic happens. Not hardly any person I know who has, or I've ever seen or read about, has ever came to God and stayed, or had a coming to God moment and not done some really terrible things or went down a really rough path. There are people that are raised up in Christian homes and Christian families, and they stay devout Christians their entire lives. There are some that are raised up in it and don't follow it, and they go down very destructive paths. And it's usually those people that end up being God's closest chosen people. Why? Because you have a testimony. You can help somebody. Your life experiences can help somebody else that's going through the same thing. And maybe they don't even know they're going through it. But they hear you. They hear your testimony. And maybe it was just that one little seed that you planted. But over time it sprouted and it bloomed and it saved that person's life. Maybe it saves 10,000 people's lives. Who knows? But I want y'all to know that it can be done. It doesn't matter where you're at in this world. It doesn't matter how dark of a path you're down. It doesn't matter what you are into. The grace of God can be given to anyone. God's forgiveness and salvation and His love is unconditional. You just have to want it and ask for it, truly, with an open heart. Not 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You can't go to Him 1 minute and then the next minute be spilling filth out your mouth, or the next minute be going and doing those same those same deals that you were doing right 5 minutes before you asked Him for help. It doesn't work like that. He knows your heart. He knows where you're at. He knows if you're being truthful about your repentance or not. You cannot hide it or fool God. But I promise you, if you go to Him with an open heart and an open mind and fully submit to Him, He will change your life forever. Now, it's not going to be easy. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be easy. You are still going to go through trials. You're still going to go through tribulations. God is still very much so going to test you. He's going to strip everything from you. He's going to strip you down from the foundation, which is what I was explaining. He did it to me. But it taught me something, and I'm going to explain what that is. It taught me how to trust in God. It taught me that God is the most important thing in this life. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end, and no way through life comes except but through Jesus Christ. That's the only way. For it says in the Bible, the only way to get into the kingdom is to humble yourself as a child. Why? Because Children are innocent. Children don't question. Children love and follow without question. Now, do children get defiant? Yes. So do we. But you still must humble yourself as a child and a child of God to get in the kingdom. You must first seek the kingdom and its righteousness before anything else. Not your worries, not your fears, not your want for money or your breakthroughs or whatever the case might be. God has to be able to know that He can trust you with the small things, with little. A man that can thrive with nothing and trust God can thrive with a mountain and still trust God. Please, anyone who has not, take the step. There's so many people in this world now that are starting to see and are starting to come to God. Take that leap of faith. What's holding you back? Your own reality? What's reality? Reality is finite. Reality is the matrix that you're plugged into. It's not real reality. It's reality to you because you can touch, you can sense, you can see. But ask yourself, think about the movie The Matrix. Is this really it? A lot of people are going to question and say, yes, it is. This is it. This is, you just, yeah. But if that's the case, and all of this is it, then why does anything matter? And I mean anything. Why does it matter what anyone does? Why does morality even take effect? Because we create our own moral standards? No, sorry, we don't create our own moral standards of the ability to survive, off survival instincts. No, we don't. We are evil creatures. You see the most worst parts of evil every single day, and it's inside of every single one of us. We do not have the capability of being moral on our own. It's impossible. If that was the case, and we created our own moral codes and had a good foundation for morality, then there would be no evil in this world, because everybody would run off that same moral code for survivability, because then you would be worried about someone is going to come for you if you do this wrong deed. If I do this thing, my likelihood of survivability goes down. So I question you. What's reality? What's morality? And if there is nothing else in this life, and there is no God, then what is this? What do we live in? How do you know that you're watching this video right now? How do you know that that phone you're holding is a phone? Give it a shot, people. Just try it. I know it may be hard for some people, but just give it a shot. Because I'm telling you, it is so worth it. My whole life has been given back to me. Time, peace, love, joy, happiness. I've got to spend time with my kids that I never got before. He gave me back the opportunity to be able to watch my children grow that was stole from me. He gave me an unspeakable peace that never goes away. I don't worry about anything. I don't have any stresses. I don't have any obscure desires. I don't want of this world. I mean, sure, we all want things. You know, we want homes. We want nice things. But I don't worship it no more. I don't think about nothing but money. I think about the beautiful things in life and how beautiful it is to wake up every morning next to my wife and my children and see the smile on my children's face and watch how happy they are as they play and see the joy in them and how innocent they are and watch them grow and learn and say new words and do new things and venture off. You're missing the small things in this life that are so beautiful, and it's being robbed from you right before your eyes. Time is too short. Life goes too quick. We spend our whole lives rushing to be an adult, all to wish that we could go back to be a kid, because we get wise when we get older and realize that it was robbed. We rushed it. We don't want to pay these bills. We don't want to get up every day and go to work. We don't want to deal with all these struggles and trials. We don't want to deal with having to do any of it. We want to go back to living with mom and dad, being a kid again. Why? Same reason why you need to be able to believe that there is a God. Nothing makes sense without it. I challenge you to do so. Anybody who wants to take that step, you can reach out. I will start doing some different things to help with that. I'll answer any questions you might have. Please, before it's too late, just give it a try. I love y'all. Stay blessed.